8 rappers who switched up their persona. There's no denying that though hip-hop portrays itself as a genre where authenticity is paramount, it's also an array of larger-than-life personalities where image is everything. This occasionally means massive pressure to later their persona to be more attractive to the general public. As a result, we sometimes see rappers switch up their entire personalities. Sometimes it's to sell more records, to adapt to the ever-changing landscape of social politics, or even due to a sudden change of heart. And now, with the rise of social media and public's constantly decreasing attention span, it is easier than ever for an artist to rebound themselves and erase all evidence of their past. It's undeniable. It is most definitely possible for a prominent artist to change their style and stay relevant. In some cases, it's even the reason a relatively unknown rapper is thrust into stardom. Before we start, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. For better or for worse, here are 8 rappers who changed up their personas. Number 8. 21 Savage. 21 Savage's transformation is more subtle than most rappers on this list, because it focuses more on his personality than his music. When Savage first came onto the scene in 2014, he was fresh off the streets. Associated with a subset of the Bloods in Atlanta, Georgia, Savage had recently been shot 6 times and lost his best friend during the same incident. Savage was notorious for being cocky, ignorant, and arrogant. He publicly courted Kylie Jenner with no regards for her relationship with rapper Tyga. He unapologetically endorsed gang activity and intense acts of cruel violence. However, as he began to rise in fame with his album Savage Mode, and then shot into superstardom in 2017 with Is the Album, Savage's tone changed. Though his music continues to focus on the experiences he had as a gang member, growing up impoverished in Atlanta, 21 now focuses on trying to help his community escape this fate. Through his series of philanthropic events, 21 has tried to lift up his community, such as with his It's a Back to School drive, and free courses aimed at improving financial literacy. As 21 continues to roll out more ways to aid his community, it's safe to say that this is one change that I'm pretty sure everyone can get on board with. Number 7. Machine Gun Kelly. Machine Gun Kelly's name stems from the type of rap he was originally known as, a rapid-fire, staccato flow with high emphasis on lyrics and complex rhyme schemes. Initially, he endured some criticism for being a lyrical miracle rapper, an artist who uses unneeded and corny rhymes to create the illusion of being technically skilled. His music was regularly associated with being pump-up music, often being used by backtracking for high-intensity events such as WrestleMania. However, Kelly quickly left this style behind, switching his music to become increasingly melodic. One could argue that he has entirely abandoned his initial persona in an attempt to become more accepted by the mainstream, as he also has fostered an acting career starting with his 2014 role in the film Beyond the Lights, and most famously, in Netflix's 2018 hit Bird Box. MGK has also made an attempt to enter the mainstream consciousness in the now notorious feud with Eminem that resulted in several disses being exchanged by the two rappers. Do you think that Kelly's efforts to become more widespread are working? Can MGK build an empire like his rival Eminem? Let us know in the comments below. Number 6. Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg started his career as one of the driving forces behind West Coast rap. His success on Death Row Records with his debut album Doggy Style was one of the leading factors of the label's rise in power and eventual signing of Tupac Shakur. Though his debut album was a refinement of his calm, cool G-Funk sound, his public perception was anything but calm. Besides having a long history of arrests and run-ins with California police starting in 1990, Snoop became notorious for beating a murder charge in 1993 after his bodyguard allegedly shot a rival gang member to death at Snoop's request. Snoop Dogg was a respected and feared figure in hip-hop, and his close association with Suge Knight through Death Row did not lessen this. However, as Snoop began to rise to superstardom, his involvement in serious gang activity greatly diminished, and he developed a reputation as a marijuana advocate. Though Snoop Dogg continued to face legal trouble for firearm and drug possession throughout the 2000s, Snoop was able to successfully reform his public persona as a harmless stoner who enjoyed smoking and chilling. This is best exemplified by his well-known friendship with designer Martha Stewart, and their lighthearted VH1 show Martha and Snoop's Potluck Dinner Party, and his role as host on the game show Joker's Wild. Nowadays, Snoop is more well known as rap's fun uncle rather than a cold-hearted gangster. Number 5. Joe Budden. To the old heads of hip-hop, Joe Budden is best known for his hit single, Pump It Up, from his debut album, Joe Budden. However, chances are very few people will know him for any other track. After the success of this debut album, Budden struggled to gain mainstream traction, failing to release a follow-up album until 5 years later in 2008. Unfortunately for him, the album sold a mere 1,100 albums its first week. No album of Budden's ever replicated the success of Pump It Up. Budden quickly developed a reputation as a bitter one-hit wonder, taking to social media to become increasingly critical of his peers, and notoriously unreceptive to the new wave of hip-hop pioneered by the SoundCloud era. In 2015, Budden channeled his frustrations into an unnamed podcast, which later became known as the Joe Budden Podcast. A blend of hip-hop news, reviews, and commentary, the podcast filled a relatively unclaimed niche for the genre, and quickly grew in popularity. Today, the podcast is the #1 hip-hop podcast, and is partially developed by Spotify Studios. Since his newfound success, Budden has become known as a relatively jovial, lighthearted host. Number 4, Chance the Rapper. When Chance the Rapper originally entered the music scene in 2012, he brought along a fully developed brand. Chance was the industry's crazy little brother, independent, DIY, and strung out on drugs with a strong affinity for hallucinogenics in particular. His first 2 mixtapes, 10 Day and Acid Rap, Chance portrayed himself as a depressed, drug-addled poet who cared deeply about the plight of the black community and the influence of American government on the youth. Then, in 2015, the conception of Chance's daughter caused him to have an epiphany. Chance publicly began to distance himself from his previous drug use, found God, and dedicated himself to philanthropy and religion. Revealing his newfound faith on Kanye West's 2016 song Ultra Light Beam, Chance fully unveiled his new persona the same year on his 3rd project, Coloring Book. Chance's cosign from West launched him into the public eye and superstardom. Amongst corporate sponsorships from companies like Kit Kat and an increasing involvement in Chicago politics, Chance received backlash from many of his day one fans, who felt his sudden shift felt disingenuous and betrayed the morals of old Chance. This was only intensified by the release of his 2019 album, The Big Day, receiving mixed reviews from critics, but almost universally negative public reception. The album was poorly received due to fans feeling that the record was a diluted version of Chance, focused on shallow subject matter and featured simplistic and lazy rhymes. In December of 2019, Chance canceled the Big Day tour amidst speculation of poor ticket sales. Number 3, Young Thug. Young Thug started his career at the center of immense controversy. Known for his musical and real-life antics, Thug was well known for being purposely subversive. He frequently insisted he was an actual extraterrestrial, refused to comply with the demands of publicists or managers, and even famously completely ghosted a production crew on the set of his own music video. From his penchant for women's clothes and ambiguous statements about gender, to his well-documented feud with Lil Wayne, many in the industry thought Thug was a little more than a glorified troll. However, with the release of several solid albums, starting with 2013's Jeffrey, and an array of features, something incredible happened. Young Thug became extremely experimental with his sound, and became one of the driving influences on the entire subgenre of hip-hop. Integrating melodic falsettos, oscillating vocal riffs, and a willingness to try strange concepts like 2019's Sup Mate, Thug influenced a wide array of artists from Gunna, Lil Uzi Vert, and even Travis Scott. Now well established, Thug has reformed his reputation to be much more professional, and is now considered by many as one of the most influential rappers from the 2010s. Not bad for someone who was originally hip-hop's most famous troll, right? Number 2, Gucci Mane. One of the pioneers of the trap music subgenre, Gucci Mane used to be known for his volatile nature, his love for lean, and his seeming inability to stay out of prison. From his rise in 2005 all the way until 2014, Gucci found himself in court over 7 times, with charges ranging from aggravated assault to murder. This culminated in 2014 when Gucci was sentenced to 2 years in prison, after being charged with a variety of crimes, including possession of a firearm and disorderly conduct. During his 2 years in prison, Gucci was forced to become sober and was able to finally reflect on his life. As he explains in his self-titled memoir, distancing himself from his heavy lean use cleared a veil of mental fog and also caused him to rapidly lose an immense amount of weight. He realized that if he continued on his current path, he would likely wind up permanently incarcerated and lose the empire that he had built. Upon his release, Gucci looked and acted so different, fans accused him of being a clone. He was in shape, coherent, and well-spoken. Since his release 3 years ago, Gucci has not encountered any more legal trouble and has released an impressive 4 full-length projects. Despite a small decrease in sales and charting singles, Gucci is even more well-respected in the industry by his fans and peers alike. Number 1. J. Cole. Cole began his career as a rapper called Therapist, but later changed his name to J. Cole, a shortened version of his birth name, Jermaine Lamar Cole. His name change could be used as an excellent analogy for Cole's change in style as well. Cole's early work found him rapping about wealth, status, and designer clothes. However, as he began to gain some attention from the industry, he felt that his persona was not true to the person that he truly was. As a result, by the time he had released his second full-length LP, Born Sinner, Cole had developed a new persona that was closer to who he wanted to be, a conscious, down-to-earth rapper who preached love, self-acceptance, and the pursuit of inner happiness over material gain. As his career progressed, Cole continued this, and in 2019 is firmly settled into the role as rap's big brother. Between his choice to build a modest house in Raleigh, North Carolina, and his rejection of flashy outfits, Cole is sometimes playfully mocked. On Jid's track Workin' Out on DiCaprio 2, a skit accuses Cole of looking like the kind of guy to borrow your charger at a party. Despite Cole's estimated net worth of $35 million, the rapper has stated his new mission is to spread his wealth to both his friends and impoverished communities. So, who had the most surprising transformation? Did we forget anyone? Let me know in the comments section. And don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to the channel.